Well, Grand Rising. Yes, it is a great day, and I'm joining you today. My name is Reverend Dr. Alice Reid, and I'm the spiritual director here. And welcome to our Homecoming Sunday. Yoo-hoo! Now, homecoming at universities often is usually connected with football. But I think after last night's win, we can add some baseball to that as well. Go Dodgers. In addition to celebrating the win of the World Series last night with the Dodgers, we're also, in our homecoming, we like to invite people we haven't seen for a while, maybe some members who have been busy with other things and come join us again. So we invite people to come. We have a potluck, and we have an opportunity to honor our legacy members. And what's a legacy member? A legacy member is anyone who's been a consistent member of our community for 25 years or more. And so we recognize them as continuing to source our community with their commitment and their love and their practice of this philosophy. Now, we're such an adaptable crowd, aren't we? When we had our sanctuary up in Talega, we were able to have our legacy plaque up on the walls for all to see. But for now, when you go into the multi-purpose room to enjoy the potluck, thank you everyone who is feeding us today with our potluck. There's a beautiful plaque that I've leaned up against the cabinetry, and you can see all the names of all the legacy members who have been part of our community for 25 years or more. And we've added a new category, and that is people who have been consistently part of the Centers for Spiritual Living, or Religious Science as it was known, or United Centers for Religious Science. We've had a couple of names, haven't we? But if you've been a consistent follower of this path and this way of life, we've added you as well. You shouldn't be penalized because now you're a member of our community and you haven't been a member here for 25 years. And so I've added a couple of names to that. So the name that goes on to the legacy member plaque new this year for being a consistent member for 25 years is our very own Rick Dale. Added to the legions. And the names that go to people who have been members of this philosophy for 25 years or more that I know of, because I have a feeling at least one of you is going to walk up to me and tell me that you also have been practicing this philosophy consistently for 25 years. Those two names are myself and Ray Jones. And so would all the legacy members who have been members of this community or a CSL community for 25 years or more, would you please stand so we can honor you? Wow. Yes. Look at these beautiful people. Thank you so much for your dedication and for your stewardship for our community and for this teaching. I also want to share with you that we are wrapping up our wonderful stewardship program. And so look at all the different stars that we've added to our wonderful, you might want to come up and look at it after the service, but we have Kathy Story created this lovely altar, and once you fill out your pledge card and put it in the little bowl in the back, we'll add you as well. I know there's a couple of you who haven't gotten around to the paperwork yet, but I still feel your commitment. So thank you so much, everyone. Your support means so much to us, not just your financial support, but your commitment to this beautiful community. And so yay us. Now we're still rising higher and growing deeper with our annual theme this year. And today's and November's theme is in the Science of Mind magazine, they have it listed a little differently than how we've decided to approach it. You'll notice on the front of the Science of Mind magazine, it says, loving the unlikable. And our ecclesiastical team got together and we sort of reworked it a little bit for our community because we know you. And so we're calling the theme, loving no matter what. Loving no matter what. That might land a little easier with folks to kind of get where we're trying to go with this theme. Now, I'm not talking about loving the Blue Jays or your favorite team, whether they win or not, or the Dodgers, whether they win or not. I'm not talking about that level of loving no matter what, although you can do that. That's a powerful way to absolutely stay in a place and a presence of love. I'm suggesting that we dive a little deeper with this topic, that we really begin to look at unity this month, and we can look to the declarations of principles. They're in the Science of Mind magazine. The latest issues for November and December are in the back, and you can buy one. It's 2 months worth of content for, I think it's $14, $12, I'm not sure. It says on the back you can buy a magazine. But in here are the declarations of principles, and they were first published in the Science of magazine, which is coming up on 100 years old next year. And in it, Ernest Holmes was asked, what does it mean to be part of this philosophy? What do you guys believe in? And so he came up with a number of statements. And the one I want to focus on with this theme this month is this one. So Holmes wrote, "We believe in the unity of all life, and that the highest God and the innermost God is one God. We believe that God is personal to all who feel this indwelling presence." Now, this is a very powerful idea until it asks something of you, right? Until it asked you to do something that you really weren't sure you wanted to do. And that last sentence doesn't go, God is personal to all who feel this indwelling presence, no matter how misguided. It does not read that way. No. Holmes is talking about a revolutionary idea here. It's not just some sweet sentiment. He's talking about really seeing God everywhere. For I have said before, and I'll say again, and I'll say right now, God is in all life, and there are no exceptions. Take that in. There are no exceptions. And if this is true, if it is true that there's only one, there is oneness, there is wholeness, that God is in all life, and that there are no exceptions, then we can't divide life into things that we like and things that we despise, things that we reject, without dismissing the power of this principle. As I said, this is a call to unity and oneness, and it's not just sentimental, it's revolutionary. And it means that the presence of Spirit is not just in the rainbows and unicorns of life, it's also in the hardships of life. It's also in the things that we are challenged by. It's also in the things that we are sometimes rejecting. And when I say that, some of you might be thinking, but what about them? and what about they're doing this? This principle can be sometimes misunderstood in a couple of ways. Sometimes people can think that means that I'm supposed to pretend that there aren't things that are happening in the world that are objectionable. And so I'm just going to join the Love and Light Brigade, and it's all going to be good, and I'm going to mind my business over here. And sometimes this principle can be interpreted to mean that we are going to absolutely be required, and neither of these are true before I say this, we'll be required to acquiesce to something objectionable, even if we see it, and even if we hear that there's something happening in the world that doesn't sit right with us. That this principle means we're supposed to swallow it and accept it. And it doesn't mean that either. No, this principle is reminding us that I'm going to back up a little bit, that God is expressing itself by means of each one of us, that it is personal to each one of us, that it shows up differently for each one of us, and that when we can bring our awareness to that, when we can begin to understand that, there might be something in the things you find rejectable. There might be something in the things you find unlikable that can bring you to a deeper awareness of God, that can bring you to a deeper awareness of spirit. Not by saying, oh, okay, you're going to drown puppies, I'm okay with this. I'm not suggesting that at all. But I am suggesting that in this philosophy where we begin to understand that everything is a reflection of our consciousness, that when we are reacting to something, there is some spiritual food for us. Something for us to glean from that. Something else that wants to be cleared within us so that we can be clear channels for the beautiful and divine spirit sifting through our beingness. Now, there are a couple of books that CSL has recommended that we look at for this topic this month. One of them is a book by Manisha Melwani's, and the title is "So You're a Spiritual Being, Now What?" Right, you're a spiritual being, now what? What are you going to do with that information? And so she encourages us to catch our dualistic thinking. When we choose to reject something, we are actually stepping into the illusion of separateness. We're stepping into the illusion of divisiveness, of duality. And so she's got a whole book on how we can begin to lean into our likes and dislikes and look at our attachments. It's actually Buddhism, just shared in a different way, of this non-attachment. And it looks like an amazing book. I've read pieces of it. I've not read the full book. But the other thing that I'm going to sort of bring in and integrate into our time this month with this topic is a book by Gay Hendrick and Kathleen Hendrick called Conscious Loving. And it's not just about intimate, partnerships, marriage partnerships. It's about all relationships. And the practitioner year 2 class is reading this book. And when I began to look at this book again, I saw, this is perfect for this discussion, these ideas that we're going to be talking about this month, about looking at our bias, are the things that we reject, that we forget that God is beneath, and inherent in all of it. The last book that we'll look at this month is a fun book, called The Soul of an Octopus, and it looks at this demystifying the monsters in our consciousness and beginning to embrace those as well. And so I think it's going to be a really interesting month as we delve into this topic. And we have 5 Sundays to do it, so I'm really looking forward to it. And so as we first look at Melwani's work, we begin to see that our knee-jerk reactions to the things that we don't like are really unconscious loving. They are places where we have chosen not to love. We have chosen not to love. And so she's suggesting that instead of getting caught up in the emotion, that we pause, that we take that in, that we find what it is that we need to understand about the situation, not to, again, acquiesce, but to find out what spirit wants us to love. And as I looked at this topic in these 2 books, I began to think about the example that I think everyone can relate to of addiction. Right? If you've had any opportunity to understand the field of addiction and recovery, you'll know that it isn't the person that's bad, but the behavior or the disease. And so when we begin to look at this idea of loving the unlovable, of looking at our judgments and loving no matter what, addiction provides a great example of how we can do that, how we can begin to look at the addict separate from their addiction. And so we're taking a class, many of us are taking a class from Patrick Harbula, and he told the story of his sister who was a heroin addict. And he really struggled with his sister. She wreaked havoc in the family. She was causing so much pain with his mother. She was stealing. She was just, turning the family upside down. And of course, he's a student of these same principles that I'm asking you to dive deep into. And what he found was that he had to come to a different place with his sister, that he began to see that while this wasn't the way he would choose to wake up on his own human spiritual adventure, that this was her soul's calling to move through addiction. I remember once being in an Al-Anon meeting, and one woman was talking about her addicted son and all the heartbreak that he was causing her, and she was just so desperate, and she was like, I just want him to be normal. Yeah, the addicts in the room are laughing. Recovering addicts, I should say. I just want him to be normal. To which somebody replied, you are not loving him. You are loving the idea of who you think he should be. And so this is where Patrick brought this beautiful wisdom to us, where he began to talk about how he chose to love his sister despite her addiction. That, and as a matter of fact, I'm backing away from that, because what he said was he loved her in her addiction. He saw her as a human being, a spiritual being, having a spiritual experience. And when he began to step into that place of seeing the God within his sister, not the addict that he was rejecting, but the God within his sister, he wrote this beautiful letter to her that he shared with all the students. And he went on to share with us that he sent this letter to his sister, and he began to heal. He began to heal because he began to see the God underneath the situation, underneath the behavior, underneath the experiences. Now, he wrote in the letter, and he shared with us, and I totally agree with him, that this didn't mean that he was going to accept her behavior. It didn't mean that he was going to be like, oh, sure, do you need some money for your heroin? No. That's not how he handled it. He drew some boundaries, because when we begin to come to this place of practicing this principle of seeing God in everything, it's in us as well. It's in us as well. That means that we love ourselves. We take care of ourselves. We may need to remove ourselves from a situation and find the love in it. Find the love. What is ours to love? Oftentimes what happens is there's some objectionable behavior, some action that's happening, and instead of stepping back and grounding ourselves in love and unity and oneness, we approach the external thing first. And we hit it up with our discord, and we hit it up with our dislike, and sometimes we hit it up with our hatred. And Holmes said, we believe in the unity of all life, and that the highest God and the innermost God is one God. We believe that God is personal to all who feel this indwelling presence. I think you're starting to get the sense of how revolutionary this idea is. Sometimes when we find ourselves, our emotions carried away and they override all the teaching and all the study and all the deep inner knowing that resonates with us. And it's kind of like, I was thinking about it this morning, and it's kind of like the sirens in the Odyssey, right? They draw you in. It's almost seductive until the next thing you know, you're getting beat up by the rocks. But if we can allow ourselves to pause, to find something within ourselves that can begin to recognize the God in that which we abhor. Well, you're not going to have to be best buddies with it, I promise. You're not going to have to join forces with it. But you won't be controlled by it. It won't take your power from you. And instead, you'll locate your power in the only true power that there is, and that is the oneness and the love of the divine for its creation. Gay and Kathleen Hendricks have this great quote in their first chapter of their book, Conscious Loving. They talk about how many of our relationships are built on unspoken silent agreements. And they help us to keep our illusions of separation intact. It's as if we say to each other, if I let you sleepwalk through life, you won't wake me up either. What a great line. And that's what happens when we don't choose love first and then respond to life from love. And if we want to find ourselves in living this powerful, revolutionary idea of oneness, if we really want to do that, then it's important for us to commit to it. Because when we commit to conscious loving, and we choose to be conscious lovers in our relationships through our judgments and through our dislikes and through the things that we want to reject, when we do that, that doesn't mean that we become a doormat or we try to fix things or we try to rescue people or we try to change things. No, we commit to seeing the truth underneath that. And so my invitation to you this week is to commit to seeing the presence with a capital P in all life. The Hendricks say it this way: I commit to my own awareness, to authenticity, to growth, and to seeing you as whole, even when you forget. Even when you forget, because we all forget. We all forget that we're whole, perfect, and complete. When you walked into a community like this, you heard this message of oneness. You heard this message of unity, and something in you awakened. And so when we can remember that for ourselves, we can help awaken others. And it doesn't you don't have to walk up to somebody and say, you've forgotten your God. I see you. You might try it. You might try it, but you might get some interesting reactions to that. But if I draw from Patrick Harbula's story about his sister, when he began to see that what she was doing with her addiction was her soul's calling, and this was the way that, remember, we also believe in the eternality of life, which means that this human existence is temporary, and that the allness of what we are is so much bigger than our humanness. And so when he began to see her at the soul level and respond to her at the soul level, not only did he experience the healing, but she got clean. Now, I can't promise that will always happen. But I can tell you that when we choose to use the tools of this philosophy, and specifically awareness, respect, and love, awareness that there's something in me that is missing the something in life that is God, that is being presented in a way that I find objectionable. And the question to ask ourselves is, what is it in you that is reacting to what it is you're not liking out in the world. The second tool to work with is respect. To take some time to learn something about what you dislike. Because even the worms and the insects and the snakes and the reptiles, the things that we might find ugly and objectionable in life, all of it has its part in the wholeness of creation. And so to find its part, sometimes it's the agitator that wakes us up. And then the third tool to use is to recognize that what you resist is still some form of God. Some form of God making its presence known to you. And maybe asking you to do a little consciousness exercise to begin to see what it is that wants to be opened up in you, what wants to become alive in you again. Holmes writes many places that there's no hierarchy in life. And of course, I've read many places that God is in the saint as much as the sinner, that God is in what we deem beautiful and what we deem broken. Nothing in God's world, nothing in God's creation is truly unlikable. It's likely just misunderstood. Thank you very much. So let's pray. And so I invite you to lower your gaze or close your eyes and know with me that there is indeed a power and a presence that is inherent in all life. It's everywhere I recognize it instantly, and it's everywhere I don't see it. And so I know for each one, as we move through our week, as we move through this month of looking at what it is that we can't see, I know that each one is blessed with their spiritual eyes opening up, seeing something that is calling to them, some revolutionary opportunity to see God, to see Spirit, to respond with love. And I know that response that is imbued with love is loving towards ourselves as it is to the thing we are loving, whether it's easy or not. Because there is no other thing happening. It is only God loving itself. It is only God creating itself. It is only God expressing itself. So I know for each one that we open our eyes, we open our heart, we open our ears, and we remember who we are. Love, having a human experience. Love that has come from the divine, has moved into a different expression, but has not left the divine. And so I know for each one that we remember the givingness of God to all of life. We choose to see like God sees. We choose to feel like God feels, with an open heart, with a willingness to love. And I know that we are blessed with this greater possibility. We continue to grow spiritually. We continue to remember who we are and what we've come here to do and who we've come here to be. And it is with gratitude and joy that I speak this word, that I know this highest truth for each one, and I know that it is the law that carries it forward as each one steps forward in their own way with courage, with willingness, with love. And so it is.